Welcome to the video, guys. We are back at Dunstanburgh Castle, almost said Lindisfarne there, Dunstanburgh Castle for the second video in a row, unless there's been some interspersed video in between that I subsequently record after this. So we're back at Dunstanburgh Castle basically to see how different, not only is the march of a month's worth of time, but also to see how the D850 handles the scene, because since the last video I have changed cameras. I've upgraded from the D700 to the D850, going from 12 megapixels to 45. That's a bit of an uptick. So we're just going to see how things go, hopefully not get as frustrated as in the last video due to compositions and all that, because I know how bad the compositions can be here. So we're just going to see what we get, see if there's any improvements with the D850 over the D700, and see how things turn out, because obviously most of it's done in the computer. Later on we'll hopefully go through a few things with the D850 which I've noticed in the few weeks that I've had it. So we will carry on walking around the corner to the south side, to the pretty side, and get underway. Right, some of you might be thinking, but Andy, you're an ICM photographer, why have you brought this sweet thing with me? Basically I want to just basically just want to try out how good this is at capturing the blue of blue hour. It is still very, very blue at the moment. Sunrise is on its way in about half an hour, so we've got a little bit of blue hour left to get things, to get a shot in the bag, just to see how things. It's just a straight shot, just on the tripod, fairly low ISO. Just let the camera do its thing, and we'll just see how we get on. And then when we're done, I'll put the resulting image up. It'll be naff. I know that's just the way it is. I don't do traditional photography very much anymore. Right then, just a box standard shot, 2 seconds, ISO 64, which is a good thing. The old one did ISO 200 down to ISO 100 via software. This does ISO 64 natively, which is great because it picks up light so much better. So yeah, that's a good improvement. Gives us a little bit more leeway for the ICM photography in brighter conditions. And I think via software it comes all the way down to ISO 32. Not sure. It's called low 1 or whatever, I don't know. So that's a good improvement, and yeah, bog standard shot, normal photography. It's basically compose, press a button, and on you go. So timer should be set to 2 seconds. Autofocus, because I'm lazy. Set it away. 2 seconds, and it's come out. It ain't blue though. Right, I wasn't saying it was blown out because it's not flashing highlights at me, but the histogram looked very, very much right hand sided, so there's obviously a lot of light in the sky over that way. So just made an adjustment, come down to f16. Hopefully that will do the job to pull that back in. Maybe it'll blue it up as well. That's better. That's better. The only thing is, I think I'll do a bracket so I've got some better foreground, because it's darkened everything down quite a bit. Right, well the going to do a bracket of just 3 shots, just so I get some foreground detail. Well, you know, so I can put it together in Photoshop. Because it has got an increased dynamic range, but we've got a very blank, clear sky that's getting lighter. So I just want some foreground in, balance things out, because we've had to drop the shutter speed. I'm going to do that. The great thing about this, the D850 over the 700 you had to set, for it to do a bracketed shot, you had to set it away through a convoluted way through the menu. This, you press the bracket button, you set how many exposures you want, and it does it. You don't need to set it to how many seconds in between, and all. Interval timer, that's what it's called. You don't have to set all that, it just does it. Fantastic. So let's set this away, 3 shots, starting at 1.3 seconds at f16, and let's go. Don't let me down. Much better. Well, it was a good little test at the start out with. A few issues to deal with. The dynamic range isn't quite all there. I'm sure I could pull it back in Lightroom without a problem, but better just to cover bases and create more files for the hard drive, because if you didn't realise, the D850 produces some big ass files. Before I changed the settings, 89 megabytes per file. Now when you photograph ICM like I do, you will swallow terabytes of hard drive space in no time at that. So I did change it to a compressed lossless raw file, something like that. I don't know what it is. So it's now a more sedate 47 megabytes, which isn't exactly much better, but it gives us a little bit more leeway. So we've got a little while till sunrise now. I think we've got about 15 minutes. So what I was thinking to do, just going to head out pretty much down to, not really the cliffs, over at the end of the far end of the castle. Head down there just to see if there's any compositions worth trying at some point in the future. Maybe even this morning, and then hopefully that sun will come through. There's cloud on the horizon. It just depends on where the sun's going to come out from over that horizon. If it comes over a little bit further to the right, we'll be alright, we'll be in business. But I think where it's coming up at the minute is behind a bank of clouds, so oh well. It wouldn't be a trip out at sunrise with me without the sun not really appearing, would it? This is turning into a normal photography video, not a bloody ICM photography video, or even a comment on the D850. This is just taking pictures. So what I've got here is doing just brackets on this scene, looking down into this raging hole as the sun rises. Just 3 brackets, so it takes an exposure for the sunrise, and then a bit to lighting up the foreground, and then lots of movement of the waves crashing over the rocks. So just kind of long exposure. So I've got the 6-stop on because that's the filter I've got on the camera for the ICM. That's what I'm doing, and yeah, we'll see how it turns out. It'll probably, composition wise, it'll be rubbish likely, but you know, we'll see. 2-second timer, and then it's on its way. Oh, some lovely light coming on the as the sun's hitting the water and the rocks. So on the 3rd one, yeah. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Lovely. It's catching some of that sunrise on the sea as well. Compositionally terrible. Just nice to shoot it though. Right then, it is very much not an ICM photography vlog or even an assessment of the D850. It's just turned into a bit of landscape photography because I was wrong. The sun actually came up with enough light catching the front of the castle. So yeah, me being wrong, there's a surprise. So we have a bit of a foregrounds, me doing foregrounds. How very strange. So we've got some grasses in the foreground, a little bit of rock showing, castle on the highlight, and it was just really a case of finding a line where, because the land drops away down onto the shore here, finding a level where you can actually see over the field to the bottom of the castle and not have the foreground blanking off the rest of it. So there was more interesting foreground over that way, didn't work. But here we've got some grasses, and as long as I kind of underexpose, I think I can probably get enough contrast from things and get a reasonable image for me anyway. Me, normal photography doesn't quite compute, does it? Press play. See what we get. I am bracketing these because I'm lazy and I just want to nail the shot, to be honest. So yeah, get enough and do the rest in Photoshop and Lightroom. Yeah, so we're yet to see properly at home in Lightroom, but let's see. Maybe it came out all right. I don't do this type of thing enough to know for sure. So yeah, right. That's maybe the landscapey bit done. Maybe some ICM now, please. Right, and it is very much a time for some ICM photography, but the advantage of the D850 is that it does multiple exposures, which I will explain more in a future video. But basically it does lighten and darken blend modes within the camera, so you can do the trickery that I usually do in Photoshop directly in the camera. Obviously that becomes very random and kind of tricky to control. I'm still very much learning, getting used to it, but as time's going on you're starting to make a bit more headway, and it is challenging but also fun because it's challenging. So this camera will let you do up to 10 which you can blend together. That is far too complex, and to be honest there's probably no reason to go beyond 5. But as I'm getting used to it, I've been using 3 frames, which is enough to think about. 2 is probably enough to get a change between one exposure and another. So I've been doing 3 just to get used to the system, and had a couple of reasonable results to then go in, process in Lightroom and Photoshop and Analog FX Pro like I usually do, to give off my usual style, but doing it in camera as well. Bit complex. Anyways, so I'm going to do a bit of that as well today. So 3 frames, and then the camera automatically generates a raw file afterwards for you to do as you wish with. So today I'm predominantly going to be shooting with the light and blend mode because it's very light around, and you gain a better chance of again isolating the gatehouse of the castle there. So yeah, going to do a bit of that, and also, by the way, it records all the individual files that it makes the blend from. So basically I'm just shooting ICM photography, and then every third shot it's blending them together to give us a different result. But I've still got all the original files to play with if I want to do that later on. So it's kind of a win-win situation. It's pretty nifty, just very complex. A couple of interesting results which you may see. Right then, that will do it for today. We've had a bit of play with some normal photography, tripod and all that kind of stuff. A little bit of ICM, a little bit of multiple exposures. Turned into a lovely morning. Bit of a blue sky one, but you know, can't complain too much. It's better than some rain and very, very strong winds, and the lack of wind meant I've had the drone up, so hopefully some of that footage has come out. If you've enjoyed the little bit of fly around of Dunstanburgh Castle in this lovely sunlight. So yeah, that'll do for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed whatever images I've put up through the video, and if I haven't, they're coming up right now. And yeah, thanks for joining me again for the second video in a row from Dunstanburgh Castle. And yeah, hopefully we'll get out somewhere else sometime soon. Yeah, we would have been at Lindisfarne, but tide times, causeways, water, that kind of thing gets in the way. So until the next one, whenever that will be, keep hard. See ya.